Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Administrator, thanks so much. I'm over here. I said hello earlier, and I again wanted to invite you to Northern Indiana, to my district, because a couple of reasons. So I've sat here, and you have too, for 2 hours. And here's the issue in my district. In Northern Indiana, where I represent, we have one of the largest manufacturing districts in the country, not just the Midwest. In the southern part of the state, we have coal mines, and we're strewn throughout with heavy agriculture as well. And so, I look at this, and I've said since the day I came to Congress and even prior, Indiana's a good role model for being good stewards of the environment and being good stewards of the economy. And I could show you in my district places where, we're really out of the box, and we're, doing things that are incredibly creative to be so much more good stewards of the environment. But nobody is a better steward of the environment than the family farmer, because their complete livelihood depends on taking care of that area. So I do agricultural tours every single time I'm in the district, and on the last agricultural tour, we've been able to diversify, we've been able to do great things in our state, we've been able to do some really, clean water things I think are exemplary. But I came away from there, and I'm old enough to remember when the EPA was really considered a partner with industry, a partner with farmers, and really kind of came alongside, especially in our state. We have an incredible Indiana Department of Environmental Management that comes alongside, not to be punitive, not to penalize, but to incentivize and to keep people from really getting in trouble. I came away from this agricultural tour really having an understanding that, in my mind, what I heard from my farmers is that today's EPA has become a punitive revenue generator for big government. And it bothers me, because I sit on this committee, and I know there's a lot of well-intentions, but when it comes to this WOTUS rule, and I understand exactly why the frustration is so high in this room on both sides. This is not a partisan issue today. This is an issue of Americans and farmers and members that represent them trying to come to grips with an understanding of, really, in a state like Indiana, we are in a target virtually in every single portion of what we do and what we lead our nation in coal, in ag, and in heavy manufacturing. The toll on jobs because of this issue of heavy-handed government, there's really no other way to explain it. I understand your intention, but I also understand that I've been around long enough that we've been able to have great gains in this country with a partner in the EPA. And when we talked about humility and we talked about attitude, there is a gigantic tone problem. When I come out of my district hearing from people from all over the state saying, it's a punitive regulating system, and when EPA comes calling, we don't even have a chance to even implement rule number 1, and here comes implementation of rule number 2. And I'm curious, especially on WOTUS, because I agree with my colleagues here, I would ask you to pull this rule and bring shareholders around this, and let's do it right, let's do it balanced. I'm not calling for one extreme or the other. I believe there's a balance between good stewards of the economy, and I can tell you that my state does that. But my question is this. So when we talk about, on one hand, you say the EPA doesn't intend to regulate every ditch. On the other hand, we look at actual implementation of the rule. The ditch exemption appears to leave some room. So here's my question. So is the ditch exemption automatically given if a business, farmer, or local government believes it's exempt, or do they have to prove it's exempt?
The way in which the law works is that if there is a question that you're going to be destroying or polluting what might be a water.
A question from the EPA?
No, that would be the individual landowner might be concerned that their activity would be doing that, and they may
on their private land.
On their private land or elsewhere, then that question is raised by that landowner, and they ask the appropriate questions. That usually and often goes to USDA or others and filters its way through. But it is not, we are not changing the dynamic of how the rule has been, how the guidance was implemented.
Yeah, but let's just say worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, some farmer ends up, somebody somehow says he's not in compliance and he must do X, Y, Z. With the waters of the U.S. rule as it is now, and what we're talking about with this exemption, could a farmer potentially face any kind of legal action if he was strongly on the side that he is not out of compliance and somebody from an EPA comes in and says you are, if this goes all the way to the end, Could somebody, like a farmer, be penalized and face legal action and have to defend himself on a question of water on his own land?
There have been enforcement cases. There have not been a great deal compared to the way in which people get to work together to answer these questions and to get permits done. I will honestly tell you, in my heart of hearts, we worked very hard on this rule to make the clarity you need so that you, as a farmer, can actually be assured that if someone asks that question, you know the answer.
Yeah,
And
but
there are no
I know, in
surprises.
all honesty, I think you missed the mark, and I would again ask that this rule be repealed and we go back and
Right.
allowed to come to the table. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate
Sorry
it.
for the
Ladies,
extra
time
time.
has expired. Mr. Abraham.